Well, of course, I'm down here giving a presentation. You could call it kind of a helicopter tour of the world economy, world financial markets, telling our clients which themes we think will be important for 2016 for the financial market and the global economy, and then, of course, also giving some investment advice how you should behave as an investor.
Okay, so nothing sinister. Your visit here isn't as a forerunner to cuts or anything like that.
No, not at all. This is sort of a purely information giving to our clients. We know, of course, stock markets have started on a relatively bad footing. Many people would like to know what's going on in the world economy, and that's, of course, also why we're coming down here and giving all this information.
Okay, and I suppose that the looming Brexit referendum must be featuring quite prominently in your discussions and maybe a factor in the situation that you're in at the moment. What have you had to say, or what will you have to say about that?
Yeah, exactly. Brexit is one of the themes which we think, of course, will impact, of course, not only the UK, of course, also Gibraltar, but of course could also impact the EU. And we think there's a lot of issues. Of course, economic issues. What would it mean for the economy of the UK? A lot of uncertainty. You could easily see that the UK growth would be affected by that, maybe halved even. Of course, also financial market implications. What would happen to the pound? We've already seen quite a weakening of the pound. And of course, depending a bit how the negotiations after an eventual Brexit goes, the pound could go really many ways. But I think really the biggest risk probably of the Brexit is probably the political one, because what would it mean to EU as an institution, as an organization? Will the UK be the first country only to leave? Will there be more countries leaving? So there's plenty of themes really in the Brexit.
Well, you're clearly highlighting the pitfalls of a Brexit taking place. Public opinion, of course, in the UK seems quite divided on this issue. So is there a real fear within the EU that the UK will actually leave?
Yeah, I think so too, that the UK is a big country in the EU, and of course it would be a bit a blow to the EU as an institution when such a big economy would decide to go. And the strange thing, actually, if you look at the economic interdependence between the UK and the EU, it's very large. Half of UK exports, they go to the EU. The EU is the biggest foreign direct investor in the UK. So from an economic perspective, it is a bit strange that the UK want to withdraw from a partner which it has such an extensive economic dealing with. But of course it also shows that the Brexit is also a political issue. It's an emotional issue. So there are many things that are coming together there.
Is it your view that if the UK does decide to leave, that other countries might want to follow suit?
It would not be our main scenario. I would say, first of all, our main scenario, which we assign a 70% probability, is that the UK decides to stay within the EU. That's, of course, I think what most people they really reckon on. But of course, 30% probability of leaving, that is also something you need to count on. We know that there are sentiments in the EU. We have seen it in France, we've seen it in other places, where people are very discontent with the EU, and therefore, of course, I think it is a real risk that this discontent could rise in the rest of the EU. And I think it's a bit of a nightmare scenario for some of the EU officials, that if the UK decides to leave, then who would be the next one? So that is clearly a serious issue.
As you know, the government and the opposition in Gibraltar are united in wanting the UK to remain a member of the European Union. In your view, how terrible would it be for the ROC if there were to be a Brexit?
Of course, in that sense, you could say Gibraltar follows UK out of the EU. And of course, I think there are many advantages of being close to the EU, having access both with goods and services to the EU. So I think it would mean quite a new situation for Gibraltar. Of course, we have seen, it's probably not maybe the end of the world for economies when they decide that we have been outside of the EU before. But I just think that the level playing ground would be completely new if they were to go outside with the UK. But very much also depends on what will be the exit conditions. We should remember that there's a 2-year period after the referendum where all these things will be negotiated. Maybe they can negotiate a good deal for the UK, and therefore it automatically will also be good for Gibraltar. But it's an uncertainty. I would say the financial sector is important for the UK, it's important for Gibraltar also, but it's probably also one of the areas where it is quite hard to get a really good deal with the EU.